The Duval Rundown, driven by Jacksonville Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Westside, home of the lifetime warranty.
Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Duval Rundown. I'm Hayes Carline. Pleased to be joined as always on Friday with Rick Ballou. You can hear Rick into the night with Rick Ballou. Rick, good morning. Big game on Sunday. Big opportunity here. A lot of storylines coming out of the Seattle loss. But let's focus on something that was said earlier this week by Liam Cohen, and I've heard you talking about it on Into the Night. But Travis Hunter may be ready for an expanded role in the offense. I have a couple thoughts as to why this is going to happen, or at least why Liam Cohen is suggesting it could happen. But give us your thoughts on this. Is it time for Travis Hunter to be considered the number one threat in this offense?
Yeah, and, whether he's the number one threat obviously remains to be seen. Brian Thomas Jr. had his best game of the year last week, 8 receptions on 10 balls. He had the one drop that was huge in the fourth quarter, and also there was some hesitation earlier in the other incompletion. Some said that he slipped. I went back and looked at it. I just didn't think that it was a good overall play by Thomas Jr.
Yeah, he plays timid.
Yep. He's scared right now, and at least they changed his route tree. You go back 3 weeks ago, 5 out of the 7 receptions for Brian Thomas Jr., they were all out patterns, and they got away with it in that particular game. But obviously, you can't do that week to week. I mean, defensive coordinators are going to pick up on that immediately. 59 offensive snaps by Travis Hunter and 7 targets. That's not enough. When you got a guy who's playing both sides, you either need to have another wide receiver in when you know that he is not going to get the football, or you need to start to target him more. He can't be just a decoy. There were times, in my opinion, Hayes, that I watched him that he didn't even turn his, and I understand the pressure was just incredible on Lawrence, but there was sometimes when he ran routes, he didn't even get his head turned around to look back towards Trevor Lawrence. So I don't know if that was because there was too much pressure. I don't know if that's because he's a rookie wide receiver that still needs to learn some of the nuances of the position, or if in fact he clearly was not going to get the football and he knew that and just tried to attempt to, take a defensive back with him. So he's got all the talent in the world. And you look at that 14-yard reception. He made a couple of guys miss. He's so explosive. Then the other 3 receptions equal 1 yard. So I get the fact that they're trying to get him the ball, and they need to continue to try to get him the ball. But right now, Hayes, is the time to start to take some shots. Send him on a go, throw the football, have him run deeper routes. You hope you get pass protection. But I really believe this is the week. And instead of 7 attempts on 59 snaps, if it's going to be 7 attempts, make it 39 snaps. Don't have him out there for an additional 20 plays if he's not going to get the football. So I think this is going to be a huge Sunday to see if that actually does happen.
And I think what goes hand in hand with this is the rest of the room just hasn't been great. I mean, Parker Washington, I would say, has played probably better than people thought. But De'Ami Brown is, he's a good effort guy, but he's sort of what we thought. He's a guy that they signed that had never caught more than 35 passes in a season. And I don't foresee some breakout coming. I mean, I think he's a solid pro, but I don't think he's somebody you can build an attack around. And Brian Thomas Jr., to me, has been super disappointing. It was one of the most misleading games in terms of stats, because you're right. If you looked at the numbers, he was efficient. 8 catches on 10 targets and had what would have been a spectacular 54-yard touchdown wiped away because Travis Hunter didn't know how to line up properly. So, I get that, but you just can't have your number one receiver playing with such caution. The drop on 3rd and 5, it's a terrible drop, but we know that's going to happen. Guys are going to drop passes occasionally. You hate it when it happens in a big moment like that. But it's the one hand shrinking down stuff. I don't see any other receiver in the league doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to just be inexplicable and super frustrating to the staff to see that kind of effort. Obviously, he's talented, but you can't have your number one receiver playing this way. I mean, it's just a morale killer.
Yeah, he's gun shy, and he didn't do it a year ago. And I wonder if it goes back to, I think it was the Pittsburgh game when Trevor threw that ball and had him lit up, and maybe that's just it. And I did appreciate the way that they tried to bring him back. We talked about the game where he ran all those out patterns. During that same game, they ran him on a reverse. So I was a little bit conflicted then, because I'm like, if he really is scared and they're trying to bring him along with baby steps and out patterns, then all of a sudden they said, well, watch this, we're going to run reverse. So hopefully he breaks out of it. I mean, he was able to do it at LSU. I watched him play a lot of college football, and he certainly did last year as a rookie, but you still have to keep an eye on him. Your point about the touchdown that was called back, if so, you're talking about a 9-catch, 144-yard effort this past Sunday by Brian Thomas Jr. So they're going to have to really pay attention to him. But I think all of this sets up well for Travis Hunter. And, the Diami Brown deal is a mystery as well. He's just not getting targeted the way that I envisioned. And, against Seattle, I figured all along that would be the game that you would have to pass to win, because Seattle was so good against the run. They were third in the NFL, and Jacksonville tried on 19 carries. They just couldn't move it. I think this week that changes. This is a very good Rams defense with an incredible pass rush, but they are a little suspect against the run. So if you can get something going now, and, Tootin for the first time since week 2 is not on the injury report. If Travis Etienne gets back to what he did the first 5 games, and you're able to run this football, then you should be balanced, and that should hopefully open things up a little bit for Trevor Lawrence to find these wide receivers.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I do think a big game is coming for Travis Hunter. I also think it was going to take time, and it's probably going to take a little bit more time, but it was going to take 6 games. That's not a surprise to me. You see these kind of the national media that don't watch the Jaguars every week.
Right.
And they're clearly just kind of going off of his numbers, and wondering, well, what's wrong with Travis Hunter? Well, I'll tell you what's wrong with Travis Hunter. He's trying to do something that no one's ever done in this era of the NFL. And obviously your head's going to be swimming. Now it's a challenge that both the player and organization have wanted to meet head on and have embraced. But it stands to reason that it was going to take him a good month and a half to, really start to have the game slow down a little bit. When he has gotten the ball, to your point, it's been electric. So I do think it's coming. I do think there's a good chance it comes on Sunday, because, again, this group, this administration, and it's got to be killing them what they're seeing from Brian Thomas Jr. and the inconsistency. Yeah. And so the best, again, you took this guy 2nd overall. So eventually he was going to be a massive piece of the offense. And it's probably time to start force feeding that. And so I'll be interested in seeing, but I do think Travis Hunter has a big game on Sunday. I think the matchup is a tough one for the Jaguars because of the things you mentioned. LA does a lot of things well defensively. They've got an outstanding front. And we saw Seattle just ragdoll the Jaguar offensive line for 60 minutes the other night. Now, Robert Hainsey is going to be back in the lineup. He was a full participant yesterday. So that's outstanding news for the Jaguars. I didn't think Monheim was bad, but boy, what a lift from a leadership standpoint. And I think a communication standpoint to have Robert Hainsey back. And let's be honest, he probably is physically better than, Jonah Monheim at this point in their respective careers.
Yeah, it was good to, even though it was a loss, it was good to see Monheim play. He ranked the highest according to Pro Football Focus. Again, we'll kind of take that for what it is. But, as we I think said this last week or 2 weeks ago. Now this is 8 offensive linemen who've had extensive playing time so far. So, they're building depth, and that is encouraging as you do move forward. But they got to change some things around, and hopefully Hainsey helps that out in this effect. It's been really bizarre over there. I mean, the scores have been really, really low. Every game has gone under in London. So, this could come down to a field goal game. And I'm talking about a field goal game where, it's a 17-14 type of game. That's what the trend is so far, this year in London. So, yeah, getting Hainsey back, and it's here we are talking about getting the ball to Travis Hunter. Well, if you look at last week and then you look at the Los Angeles Rams defensive line, your thought is, number one, you better be able to run. And number two, it's going to be, just a couple of seconds with the football, and Trevor Lawrence is going to have to get rid of it. So that in itself is going to be interesting. I think they want to definitely throw the ball downfield to Travis Hunter, but will they be allowed to with this great pass rush? That's why, in my opinion, Hayes, running the football in 2 days is so important. And, I've said it a couple of times, and I do say it a few times a year. There was almost 30 consecutive years where the winner of the Florida State-Miami game, the one statistic you would look at was not third downs, not turnovers. It was rushing yards. And if I was asked to pick one, I mean, Jacksonville was were they 4 of 15 last week on third down? And last 4 games, Sean McVay is 31.9% on third down. I mean, so points could come at a premium here. But to me, the most important part of this game, can Jacksonville rush the football?
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you brought up something that's really interesting, too. That's a very deep level of this game, but a very important one. And that is the kicking game for both sides. Cam Little enters the game on a little bit, I'd say, of a mini slump. I mean, he was never going to make every kick, but he is coming off a game in which missed a field goal, missed an extra point. But the Rams situation is really interesting because Joshua Carty has been one of the most inaccurate kickers in the NFL. But they have mastered this new kickoff. I mean, he is throwing these knuckleball kickoffs into the landing area, and these returners have no idea where this ball is going. This is something that James Gladstone referenced on the Jaguars programming, Jaguars HQ on 1010XL yesterday. But it is something to keep an eye on. You cannot give, as we know, the Rams extra possessions, and you certainly can't give them extra possessions when you couldn't field a kick. And because we know that's going to be a deep in Jaguar territory. But it's incredible. This guy can't make field goals, but he throws this Tim Wakefield knuckler on the kickoff that people have no idea where this thing is going to go. It is fascinating to watch. So you've got a Jaguars kicker and Cam Little that's starting to show a little bit of struggles. And really, he's been awful with the kickoff versus the Rams, who can't make a field goal compared to the other teams in the league, but have this incredible kickoff system. It's really going to be a fun element to this game.
Yeah, special teams have been a concern this year for the Jags. And I said during the offseason, I thought they had arguably the best kicker-punter scenario in pro football. I mean, you had 8 punts last week by Logan Cook. Only 2 of them went inside the 20-yard line. That's not Logan Cook like. Logan Cook had the one great coughing corner kick against Seattle, but he struggled a little bit. I kind of figured, Hayes, that the return problems would be fixed and there would no longer be issues once Tank Bigsby was moved to Philadelphia. But I mean, there's been some struggles there, particularly with with Quint Allen. He's made rookie mistakes, and I can't stand the new kick rule. I just think it's such a gadget, and the NFL does not need that type of stuff, in my opinion. But you're right on. The Rams have mastered it, and the Jaguars have really been far from consistent when it comes to their return game. As far as Cam Little, I'm more concerned about him in the kickoffs than I am making field goals. I think you nailed it. He is in a slump. I still think he's a nuclear weapon. I think he's going to snap out of it. I almost look at it as like a baseball player who's in an 0 for 18 slump, and then all of a sudden he's going to break out and everything's going to happen. I'm not concerned about Cam Little. I still believe that if the game is on the line, he is going to make the majority of the kicks. That kickoff deal, though, we've seen that since the preseason. The second-year kicker has struggled with that element. And there's been a lot of kickers in the NFL who have struggled with this as well. So, we always talk about how special teams are so important, and it's almost like it's the obligatory thing to say, and then we move on and get to the offense or the defense. Special teams is going to be huge. And what I believe, and we'll get your opinion on it as well, what I believe is going to be, again, a very low-scoring game. I think this is going to be an under game. I think last week I thought first to 30 would win it. I was wrong. This week I kind of think first to 20 could win it.
Yeah, all great points. And it's going to be fascinating to see who wins that special teams battle. And I'm with you. I'm not worried about Cam Little. If you told me right now, hey, Cam Little 53-yard field goal to win the game, last play of the game, would you take it right now? Absolutely, I'd take that situation and trust Cam Little to knock home a 53-yarder to win the game and send the Jaguars to 5-2. Want to thank Jacob Simons, the brains behind Duval Rundown, does an outstanding job for us. Jacob, let's say hello to our sponsor, please.
I'm Rick Ballou, Jacksonville Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Westside, proud partner of the Jaguars. Drive with confidence. Every new vehicle comes with our exclusive lifetime warranty. 7030 Commonwealth Avenue or online at jackswest.com.
Rick, let's get your thoughts on the defense and what they're going up against Sunday at Wembley against Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay, Devontae Adams. I don't think they'll have Puka Nacua. I don't know if they've released their final injury report yet or not. Probably not, since we're so early in the morning on Friday, and the fact that the Jaguars are ahead of them won't matter. So I guess we don't know about Puka, but I'm assuming he won't go. But still, no Devin Lloyd. What kind of a challenge is this for the Jaguar defense, and who are a couple of X factors that have to play well, in your opinion, for the Jaguars to slow down this Rams attack?
Well, you now have to defend Adams. He's had a really good career, regardless of what team he's been on, against the Jaguars. I want to say he scored in every time that he's faced Jacksonville. So you got a D up there. They get a huge break, as you pointed out, with Puka not playing, but, on the other side, Devin Lloyd is not playing. I go back to the Jake Browning situation. I remember talking to Mark Duffner about this, and I asked, can you blitz Burrow? He's like, man, he will rip you apart if they do. Well, they did blitz him, and they had a little bit of success before he went down with the injury. So I think it's the same deal here, with Matt Stafford. We watched two quarterbacks last night, in Flacco and Rodgers they both can still move a tiny bit, but the days of the prototypical drop back passing quarterback are almost gone. And Matt Stafford is one of those guys that certainly does fit into that category. And I'm aware of the fact that, earlier in his career, Stafford could move. But I think this becomes a very important situation for Jacksonville that really, just their pressure rate was just awful last week. And, Trayvon Walker only played 16 plays. He was primarily out there on passing downs. Some fans are down on Josh Hines-Allen, and I get it because the numbers aren't there. But if you go back and you watch, he was consistently doubled. He was always getting chipped by running backs. I don't know. I don't believe that they can get there with just 4. So you're going to have to pick some spots, almost like what we said about Travis Hunter offensively. You're going to have to pick some spots here with some blitzes. And I don't know where they're going to come from. I don't know if you're going to send a safety. I don't know if you're going to send fire a corner. What are you going to do? But this is a chess match where it's so important because you have to create pressure on Stafford. And you saw what happened last week, first game this year, that Jacksonville wasn't able to get a takeaway. If they got a takeaway in that game, that ball bounced around, and BJ Green, the second, almost had, on his only snap, almost had an interception. They need to force a takeaway or two. I'm going to go right to the guy who's replacing Devin Lloyd. Just think of how important this game must be personally to Ventrell Miller. That came down to really the last battle. I mean, maybe right guard a little bit or maybe the second safety, but Ventrell Miller was right there as an oar with Devin Lloyd to be a starter on this football team. You hate to see anyone go down, especially Lloyd. I think Ventrell Miller's got a real opportunity here to show this football team once again that he is a linebacker of the future here in Jacksonville. So I'm gonna single out the third-year Florida Gator to have a big game here against LA. How about you?
Yeah, I think Ventrell Miller is a good call, and it'll be interesting to see how well he can hold up in coverage. I would anticipate maybe seeing some 3 safety looks with a little bit more prevalence, in with Lloyd's absence. But I'm with you. They're going to have to blitz Stafford. I mean, he doesn't move well, obviously, being advanced. He's an incredibly cerebral player, and Liam Cohen hit the nail on the head. You can't trust his eyes at all. So he makes it very difficult to play, particularly the way the Jaguars like to play, because if you're staring at his eyes, chances are he's deliberately deceiving you with where he's looking. So, that really will be a tremendous mental challenge for the Jaguars secondary. I'm with you. I think they're going to have to blitz. I mean, Josh Hines-Allen and, Trayvon Walker, I mean, they're good players, but the attention Hines-Allen is getting makes it tough. And Trayvon playing with the club on his hand makes it tough. So that'll be interesting to see what Anthony Campanile can dial up to try and slow down this Sean McVay attack. Rick, we'll get you out on this. Appreciate your time. How do you think the game plays out, and pick a winner if you'd like?
Yeah, I've got back and forth on this. I will say that in my opinion, this is the most difficult game to pick so far. I think the importance of this one for Jacksonville is enormous for several reasons. But the one that I keep looking at is that, going into a bye, you don't want to lose 2 in a row and all of a sudden take that with you for 2 weeks. I think that's too much to overcome. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to come down to a Cam Little field goal. I do believe that Jacksonville is going to be able to move the football a little bit and put themselves, hopefully, with good situations in the red zone. They did not have a red zone opportunity last week, believe it or not, against Seattle. I'm going to take a very low-scoring game here. I'll go. I'm going to go 20-17. Give me the Jaguars over the Rams.
Wow, that would be huge if they can get to 5 wins in this stretch of this schedule, knowing that you still have 2 against the Titans, a game against the Cardinals, a game against the Jets, and a game against the Raiders. That would put you on a pretty clear path to a 10-win season. Which would obviously be a spectacular accomplishment in year 1 for Liam Cohen and company. So I'm going to go the other way. I think the Rams win the game. I just think anytime it's mentor versus apprentice, I always go with the mentor. And I know that's not a hard and fast thing. We saw Todd Golden beat Bruce Pearl a couple of times last year, including in the Final Four. So obviously it's not a hard and fast rule, but I think traditionally in sports, tough for the apprentice to beat the mentor.
You're thinking Saban and all his coaches, and you're thinking Belichick and all his coaches.
Yeah. I think particularly in football, it tends to hold. I can't tell you why, but I don't know whether the apprentice overthinks it, and maybe Liam Cohen, maybe the game plan on both sides is too convoluted. You try and get to too much. I can't put my finger on it, but and the Rams obviously have incredible talent. I mean, Matthew Stafford is a great quarterback, and Devontae Adams still has, plenty of, it seems like plenty of good play left in his career. Kyron Williams, a tough physical back. And then I do worry about that Rams front. I mean, Jared Verse versus Walker Little. I mean, and Verse isn't even their best sack guy. Young has 7.5. So I think it's a tough matchup game as well. It is in Wembley, and that'll help the Jaguars because they've been over there all week, and the Rams are coming over very late. So from a fatigue standpoint, intensity standpoint, maybe that'll help the Jaguars. But I'm with you. I think it's a close game, but I think the Rams get it done. But we'll see. Hopefully you're right, and we're celebrating a win next week during the bye. That would be an outstanding start to the season for the Jaguars. I'll look forward to talking with you next Friday on Duval Rundown, and we'll certainly look forward to listening to Into the Night with Rick Ballou. So, Rick, thank you so much for your time, man, and we'll look forward to catching up with you next week.
All right, thanks, Hayes. Always a pleasure. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too. Thanks for watching Duval Rundown. We'll be back on Monday. Hacker will join me. Frank will be coming back from London from calling the game. So Hacker on Monday, we'll certainly look forward to that. Thanks for watching Duval Rundown, and enjoy the game.